You know that feeling when you pick up a cheap vacuum pump at the garage sale, thinking you've saved a few bucks, only to end up with a piece of metal that rattles, leaks, and leaves you chasing suction in circles? That regret is all too common in the world of workshop vacuums, where a low-cost model can turn a simple cleanup into a full-blown hassle. Those moments make you wonder if spending a little more upfront on something like the Sandia 802300H Sniper Extractor might actually be the smarter move. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. In this review, I'll walk you through why the Sniper feels different, who will actually benefit from it, and which scenarios might still leave you better off with something else. Let's start with the core dilemma most buyers face. They need a pump that can handle a decent volume of air, say, a 12-gallon tank at around 300 psi, but they also want it to be approachable on a small job site. The Sniper pulls double duty with its dual-stage VAC motors, each delivering 2000 W, and an inline heater to keep the fluid from freezing when you're pulling a cold oil or coolant line. That sounds like a lot on paper, but what does it really mean when you're actually using it? In my experience, the real measure is how quickly you can move from pump setup to pump working without fiddling with clamps, hoses, or trying to stop the motor from stalling. First off, the access port design is where the Sniper starts to earn its keep. The twist access port can be removed with a single turn, and because it's molded with a double-sided indestructible material, you don't have to worry about cracking or bending when you're slamming the port open to swap out a filter or clean out debris. I've seen cheaper pumps where the access port threads get stripped after a handful of uses, forcing you to replace the whole unit. Here, the robust port holds up, saving you a few minutes and a lot of frustration when you need to keep the tank clean for a job that runs longer than an afternoon. Another subtle but useful feature is the air deflector that's built into the recovery tank itself. Rather than letting the air swirl around in chaotic patterns, something that can cause the liquid level to fluctuate and lead to false full tank alarms, the deflector channels the flow in a smoother path. In practice, this means the gauge reading stays more reliable, and you don't have to keep resetting the pump or pausing to let the tank settle. For anyone who has to move a lot of fluid quickly, think automotive shop oil changes, small-scale paint stripping, or even a home workshop pulling a batch of coolant. This little aerodynamic tweak can shave a few seconds off each cycle, which adds up over a day of work. The ribbed recovery tank is another point worth noting. It's not just about aesthetics. The ribs add rigidity that prevents the tank from denting when you bump it against a bench or a wall. In a cluttered shop, accidents happen, and a dented tank can lead to leaks or reduced capacity. The Sniper's tank held up through a couple of accidental knocks on my workbench without any sign of compromise, which is a quiet win for durability. If you're the type who moves your equipment around a lot, or you have apprentices who might be a little rough on gear, that extra strength can be a real peace-of-mind factor. Now, let's talk about the semi-pneumatic wheels. For a pump that weighs more than a typical handheld vacuum, the wheels are a welcome addition. They roll smoothly across concrete and even over a few uneven patches, and they do so with a surprising hush. A lot of competitors have hard plastic wheels that clack loudly and make the entire unit vibrate. The Sniper's wheels absorb some of that vibration, meaning the whole system stays steadier, and you can position it next to a workbench without constantly hearing a low-freq hum. If you work in a shared space where noise matters, like a garage that doubles as a studio, this quiet operation can keep you from irritating neighbors. All of those design choices sound good, but they also come with hidden trade-offs. The biggest one is the power draw. Two 2000 W motors and an inline heater are great for performance, but they also mean the unit cranks a hefty amount of electricity, especially if you run the heater for extended periods. I found myself needing a dedicated 20-amp circuit in my workshop to keep the pump from tripping the breaker when I was pulling a large volume of coolant all morning. If you're limited to a standard 15-amp outlet, you'll either have to stagger the use of the heater or accept a lower suction rate. That's something prospective buyers need to think about before they plug it in. Another practical consideration is the size of the tank relative to the pump's suction power. A 12-gallon tank at 300 psi is plenty for most small to medium tasks, but if you regularly need to move gallons of liquid,